Formula One is an ever-changing sport. The rules are always changing. Since the 69 years it's actually been as a sport and one of the most biggest global entities that we watch. The rules are always changing, and to be honest, every time the rules do change, one team in particular is always the ones that receive an end that have managed to basically be the best of the best. We saw that happen in 2009 when the regulations changed. Ross Brawn took Brawn GP, a one-season team who broke through the rules and all the regulation changes to win the championship that year. 2010 it was changed yet again, Red Bull and Christian Horner, and then of course in most recent years, 2014 the V6s came in, and of course Toto Wolff and his team from Germany and Brackley Mercedes have been able to capitalise on the rule changes. They are now the 6 times world champions, and obviously constructors from Japan going for the drivers here at the US Grand Prix. And we've had another change. Yet again, Formula One is changing the dynamics, and this one is a big one. It's been on the calendar, it's been talked about for a number of years now. Again, like the game that we'll have on the Xbox, it's been in production for quite a few years now. Since basically the Halo cockpit, around that kind of time, it's been worked on that we're going to have a massive rule change in 2021. But not just that, to affect to change the car as well. So the look of the car, the dynamics, the aerodynamics, also to change the teams, the spending, the weekend, basically to change Formula One. Pick Formula One up where it is right now and turn it on its head. But turn it on its head for the better, or at least that's what we think anyways. They've had a driver's press conference live from Austin. They've also had a lot of breakdowns and demographics on the F1 website and things like that, so even people like me and Jordan can follow along, because we didn't do engineering, so to be honest we don't know what the hell a lot of these big words are even about. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of what we have managed to fathom from this, and just basically give our reviews about the car and what we think Formula One in our view will be like. So the 2021 car is pretty basic but very futuristic, very good. The front wing's got no components on it. It's almost like a unibody front wing, much bigger aerodynamical benefits, and none of this, none of these little forks and razors and end plates and things like that to get confused about. The biggest changes come in the wheels as well. Obviously much change on the wheel arches as well. We're going to have bigger tyres, including 18-inch rims. So again, with the big tyres now, it's all Pirelli rubber, very little rim, so again that will change. There's also been rumours that the wheels are going to have LED lights on to, I assume, show the cars going around. So basically it looked like one of those bonfire nights every single race, and it'll look amazing in races like Singapore and Bahrain. So yeah, that'll be on the car. It'll also give the fans a bit more of an insight about what is happening. Low profile of the car. It is supposed to be around 20 kilograms heavier, so that estimates at around 900 kilograms. But obviously with the added changes to things like the aerodynamics and things like that. Much better control for the drivers as well. So yes, that is the change. So now in the current cars, it's about 40 to 50% aerodynamic benefits of the drag. So if you follow a car behind, you can get a good drag, but the downforce that can come off that, the undulation from the air, might not be as strong. It's estimated to be about 40% of a decrease around now. Much closer racing is one of the main things why they changed these rules, and it's estimated that there'll be a massive change in there. So you following a car, better overtaken from the aerodynamics that you can get from following that car, and in the words of a very simplistic kind of person, it's just to promote better overtaking, and obviously that's what the FIA are doing. Again, much simpler car, much better benefit of the car, much better for the spectators to see, a lot more better feedback can come, and obviously better visual on the tracks. There's also been a different change to the weekend as well in terms of the team and all the rookies and their test drives that they have. Basically, in the 2 practice sessions, it's been estimated that they should include more of the junior drivers to take control, so we should see more of this younger talent come through. Things like Canada and Nicholas Latifi and the Williams, and they did one in Japan as well for a home driver and things like that. Also the Canadian that I've just mentioned, he's going to have a go in the US Grand Prix this weekend, or he should have yesterday. So again, a lot better chance for the younger guys. So that's obviously good for the on-track action in the car. One of the big things though is if you're a team, especially if you're someone like Williams or McLaren or Renault, someone at the back who might be struggling with funds, there's going to be a cost cap, and that is of $175 million US, and that's just for on-track action. That's just for everything that they can put in the car. That's for everything that is in a weekend. So we should see a reduction, or we should see a closer kind of coming together with the teams, because the pay gap between then Mercedes and Williams should be a lot less. And again, that might not affect us personally, but that will make a massive difference behind the scenes. So to sum up from what you've just heard from me, which that's all nonsense to me, I'll only like to see that the proof is in the pudding when I see it in 2021. But from all that, it's better racing, closer action, better aerodynamics, much simpler cars, and a closer gap between all of the teams, which promotes better overtaking and better racing. And as I just said there to start the episode, Jordan, one team always runs away with the rules. This ruling of 2021 should eliminate that, so we end up where we get to the 2021 Australian Grand Prix. Nobody has a clue who's going to win. And we even get to the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And of course, yes, there'll be a world champion and there might be a team who's done well. But all of them should have had a go. That is the plan. So, of course, just bringing you into the episode, Jordan, the car came out. But it's been on the cards for a very long time. The big reveal feels like something that we waited in school for, especially when we were in class watching the car launches. So, when you saw this 2021 car, what was your first reaction? And what was your vision when you first saw this photo of the car to what racing in 2021 will be like?
Well, if you remember a couple of months back, Formula 1 released a prototype wind tunnel version of the 2021 car. They said that they did various tests in about mid-July time. Secret tests behind the scenes. I think they used Williams' wind tunnel, I believe, or some part of their studio to kind of gather the data for this car and stuff. Pretty much analyse and see how much downforce the cars are going to generate whilst following another car, because that's the problem that Formula 1 has got. When I first seen that, it was a bit... I was impressed with how it looked. It looked very racy. It did look very aero-like. It almost looked like the car's just been like pushed back with the air and stuff. It's weird to explain, but it feels like the car's like someone's like dragging the skin behind it, so it's like it's been proper stretched to the point of where like it's going to tear off any minute. That's what it looks like, and that's what I love about it. The only thing looks wise anyways, I don't want to go too much into having to go at the looks, because at the end of the day it's not about the looks. The car could look as ugly as sin, but if it provides good racing, I'm not bothered. The only downside to me is the rear wing. It might take getting a bit of used to. It looks a bit weird. It looks off sync. It looks out of place in a way. And especially when you look at it from the front angle, it looks, I don't know, it just looks a bit strange. But then again, like I said, no complaints at all, by the way. The car looks fantastic. I love the look of it. I hope it does provide us some really good race, because that's what we need. If you heard Ross Brawn in the press conference, he was basically saying that, well actually criticising the Formula 1 directors about getting these modern day cars. If you remember when they changed from 16 to 17, that they almost went, right, okay, we're going to make these cars 2-3 seconds faster. And it was like, well, that's good, but you haven't solved it. In fact, you haven't really solved racing. You've just made it a lot worse. And they did, because he couldn't follow anyone. Ross Brawn was very critical of that in his press conference. And then saying that we've done a lot of analysis on this car, on this design, that we believe that this is the correct solution to go down, and this is the future of Formula 1, to the point of where, right, okay, let's get this problem out the way with, and let's just get back to good, hard racing. But like I said, it's all well and good saying, right, okay, I'm going to accept all these rules and regulations. I'm going to accept this car. Yes, it looks good. But I'm not going to jump the gun just yet, because I want to see it in action first. Because, like I said in a tweet, it could either go plain sailing, it could go brilliantly to the point of where, like, right, okay, you've solved the issue of Formula 1. But it also could come crashing back down to earth and just burn in the pile of ashes. It could go either way of that. It is really, really exciting at the same time, but it is risky. You've got to really just go, right, okay, let's just ride with it, and let's see how it goes at the same time. But also as well, the cost cap thing as well, what you mentioned before, $175 million. That's the maximum that you can spend within a season upon your car, of course. Now, that's good. Of course, that is brilliant, because therefore teams like Mercedes and Ferrari and stuff will have to reduce their budget, because they'll probably spend about £300 million on a car. So they're just about half in their budget on the car. So that's going to be difficult for them. But for teams like Racing Point and Haas and Toro Rosso, their budget won't stretch to 175 million. Theirs probably stretch to about 80 to 100 million at least. So there's still going to be that will take time. It will, take time for them to catch up. It isn't going to be instantly straight away to the point of where, right, Toro Rosso are going to be fighting for the race wins. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen within one season. It is going to take time. And I think a lot of people will jump to the gun in 2021 and go, oh right, well, Mercedes is still winning. Why? Well, because they've spent the most money still, because the likes of Toro Rosso and stuff aren't up to scratch yet. They'll take time for their car to develop, to get to the point of where they, well, maybe not spend 175 million, but get to the car to the point of where it is up to pace with the likes of the Mercedes and stuff. So it isn't going to be instant. Probably about 2023, we'll probably see a real good impact. That's only if the rules are as standard, are as good. And one of the other things that was mentioned within that press conference was the maximum race in a season of a 25 race calendar. Now this is probably the biggest negative talking point of the whole thing. Everyone was happy with the financial aspect of things. Everyone was happy with the look of the car, with the financial regulations and stuff like that. Sport regulations as well. That was another one. The one thing that people didn't like was 25 races within a season. Now there's been a lot of talk of this about probably since 2013, I believe, about having a 25 race calendar, which as fans, that's brilliant. I think it's good to have it. If you take away everything else, just as a fan, 25 races, that's good. I love that. As many races as possible. But if you think about the bigger picture, you've got drivers who have to fly all over the world, all the time. But not only that, the staff and the mechanics and stuff, who have got to leave their families and stuff behind for about 100 days for the year, maybe even longer, travelling long hours, working some excruciating heat under a lot of pressured hours, because just because the car goes out on the track doesn't mean to say your work's done, because a driver could crash the car and bin it, and therefore your lunch break is gone. Them ham sandwiches you've got, and they're going to go mouldy, son. You have to work on this car, I'm afraid. I mean, they have tried to restructure the race weekend, like having 2 practice sessions on a Friday, having shifting, I think it's from a 4-day to a 3-day, pushing everything on the Friday morning, the scooting area, the FIA and all that rubbish, and then having practice sessions on the afternoon. But of course, fans aren't still happy with that. So Lyle, what's your thoughts on the thought of having 25 races in 2021? Are you happy with that, or are you with me where it's like, we don't need 25 races in Formula 1 because of what I mentioned before about the staff and the mechanics?
Well, that's almost half the year as well. 52 weeks in a year, 25 weeks in a year. That's almost half a year. So, I'm gonna kick it off to you first, Jordan. I completely agree. It is a lot of other things as well. It's about the staff, it's about the families. It's also about the logistics as well. Formula 1, is a massive sport. But so I just want to quickly say something. Just a little, at the moment, obviously, we are, trying to reduce our recall footprint and all that. That the reason why one of the V6 eras came in is because of, the carbon footprint, trying to reduce it. If we are trying to reduce that, and if Formula 1 is a green sport trying to move ahead, or at least, moving forward to reduce carbon footprint, is it really worth it to do 25 races? Because, so at the moment, we have gone from Mexico City to Austin. That's not bad. That's what, 200 miles up through America, through Mexico and southern Texas. But then when we have to go from, Brazil, which is a penultimate round, to Abu Dhabi, South America, all the way to the Middle East, that's a lot of flying. They've got to fly the car, then they've got to fly all this and that and the other. And I'm not going to bore you with all that because I don't know too much about it, but, they will, that's not very eco-friendly. You can imagine that, because, all that freight has got to go all around the world, ships or ships or airliners. It's not great. And at the moment we are doing it, of course, we can't get around that. When we go from, what's the biggest race? So, for example, we do European rounds, and then after Monaco, we're firmly in Europe, but then after that we do a kind of a weird trip to Canada and back, like no one's ever noticed. And of course then we have the flyaways at the start of the year, then at the end of the year, which we're in right now. To add 25 races, it'd just be more of that travelling. And I know that they could get around that by saying, we'll have more races in Europe. What's that? That's five more at the moment, and I think that's 3 more than what we're having next year. So we, they could have 3 more races in Europe, 4 more races in Europe. But again, it's just that travelling. It's also the families and the aspect that we've just talked about, the money.
Yeah.
If they're going to have a cap of $175 million, which again is going to, affect the teams, it will also, dip into the money of, Mercedes versus Williams, because again, just going back to that, the spending cap, 175 million, that is only for on-track actions. So that's all the money that they put in the car, but things like driver salaries, that excludes driver salaries, bonuses, motorhomes, blah blah blah, everything like that, and that includes, as I've just said there, when we're not in Europe, they have to build, these luxury kind of places to stay, also the maintenance of the motorhomes, everything else. So as I say, it's just for different aspects away from Formula One. It's a lot. It's a massive headache. The logistics is massive, but also for the racing, for the 25 races. And I've said this before. If we're gonna, so for example, like next year, Zandvoort in Hanoi. It's an old, Zandvoort, it's an old circuit that we've been to. Yes, it's got some renovation, but it's an old circuit. It doesn't really need as much renovation as you would put on a brand new circuit that we built, for example, in India. Hanoi is a street circuit, so again, we can use the streets. But 3 more races, again, where are they going to come from? Again, we're a sport that we're not spending loads. We're looking at the positives of, using what's already there. We're not going to do these, ridiculous things like, as I've just said there, India, building what was, I think it was the second most expensive Formula One circuit in the world, behind the Yas Marina circuit that was built in 2008, I believe. So again, Formula One can't afford to do that anymore. So if, yes, we're going to do, street circuit and made up of street circuits and all circuits. So for example, like London City, let's say, there's been talk about a London City Formula One race. I don't think that could happen, but let's say that is, around the streets of London, all we need to do is put some banners up and that's it. And then also we look at either going back to Sepang, or we go to somewhere else in America, or we go to just another circuit that was used before on the calendar. Turkey, Istanbul, India, South Korea. There's loads to choose from. If we do something like that, it would make sense. But I am not on board with building a brand new circuit or doing something like that for Formula One, where it's just gonna, not be great, and we're going to do another India where it's going to be on the calendar for 2-3 years. It's going to be won by the same guy, and then it's going to go. Also, I just quickly actually going back to the Miami Grand Prix again. To set out the plans is a good idea, but remember that's going to be a brand new, fully, newly refurbished, erected Formula One track around what is a very expensive, sports kind of village in the NFL stadium. So again, is that the right way forward? I know fans are excited because it's going to be a great spectacle. It's going to bring fans into Miami. Again, it's just another, it's just another way Formula One can enter the US. But again, is it going to be, sensible for Formula One to do? So at the moment, Jordan, I would say no. For all those reasons, I just don't think 25 is the right way to go. You were saying for fans, I mean, of course, we would absolutely love it. We have the Premier League in our country, the most football games in an entirety of a season. It sounds very, very, very busy. I think it's 38 games. You have to put 38 league games, and that excludes all of the cup games and things like that. They have to do and international breaks. So there's someone from Italy or Spain where they have their own football leagues. It might sound pretty incredible that they're going all that time. NFL, they only play 16 games in the normal season compared to our, as I've just said, they're 38 excluding all the cups. But we like that. We can watch sport. We'll never get bored of watching sport. So we'd never get bored of watching Formula One. Never. I mean, we watch reruns till the cows come home. We watch 26. So for example, before Mexico, I've watched 2016 Mexico, 2015 Mexico, 2016 Mexico, 2017 Mexico, 2018 Mexico, and of course 2019 Mexico. And I haven't had much time, but I'm going to go back and watch the old USA's 2006 Indianapolis, 2007 2012 Austin, 2013 Austin, 2014 Austin, 2015. So we watch all these reruns. So of course brand new Formula 1 would be something that we would love. But as a Formula 1, the logistics side, the kind of, the brains behind it, again, we're going to have to see more, but at the moment it's a no from me because it just doesn't make sense. It would be busy for everyone behind the scenes, but as Jordan just said, at the end of the day for fans, we would absolutely love it. I mean, to be honest, Jordan, if we had 52 weeks of Formula 1, 51 weeks, let's take out Christmas, you can have Christmas off. If we had 51 weeks of Formula 1, I mean, I guess you would love that, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course I would, yeah. Like I said before, it's like I said, if you take everything away from the whole everyday thing of Formula 1, the big circus of it, to have races every week, that would be brilliant. I would absolutely love that, because I could watch Formula One, like Lyle said, till the cows come home. Or if the cows never come home. Good analogy. But also as well, just touching on what you said earlier about the whole environmental thing about Formula 1 trying to go green and stuff. Having 25 races, it's not the way to go. Now, obviously, I'm with that. I believe that 25 races isn't the way to go. It is probably the only downside to these new rules and regulations, like many things like the environment and stuff like that. But what Liberty Media and the FIA should do, really, is try and negotiate a way so that you're not doing as many miles. So we're not going from Monaco straight to Canada, and we're not going from like Brazil straight to Abu Dhabi. It's like a long, like a big, like massive like flight and stuff to move everything across. Maybe they could work. I know it is difficult, because other tracks are used for other sport events, like you've got DTM, MotoGP and all that, even Formula E sometimes. So you've got other events as well you've got to try and work around, which sometimes you can't really help it, especially those busy tracks, for example Silverstone, and of course Monaco as well, because that's a street circuit that can only be used a certain amount, at a certain amount of time during the year. Same with Singapore and stuff like that, and of course Belgium and of course Italy, that's used all the time. So there will be ways around it and stuff like that, but I hope that they do kind of go from like one continent to another, and like finish up in Asia, and like maybe start in America and end in Asia, or start in Asia and end in America. Like, do that instead of just trying to go from back and forth and all over the place. And another thing as well is a way that they're trying to slightly reduce, probably like shipping in flights and stuff like that, is a new rule in practice where a team will bring, for example, a brand new front wing, let's say, right? This is an example that Ross Brawn used in the press conference. If they bring in a new front wing and they'll test an FP1 and it goes pretty well, so then they'll call back to base and go, right, okay, make 2 more of these, fly them over at last minute. So you've obviously got all the guys making the parts on standby, flying them over overnight, putting them on the car for qualifying, and off they go. But of course that's going to change, because teams can bring new parts to a Grand Prix, but they can't use them for the qualifying in the race. They can do whatever they want in practice, they can put new parts on, but they can't use them for qualifying in the race. So that's going to make life a bit easier for the teams. It's also going to make life easier for the logistics side of things, so that's a good positive as well. But that's not solving the problem, is it? That's not solving the whole going green thing. So I do agree with Lally on that one as well, about the whole, 25 races, it's not good for many things. But overall, looking at the rules and stuff, it is pretty positive. Like, you can go and see statements and stuff like that, and like Lyle said, there are videos out there, because we aren't the most technical type of people when it comes to this. There was a lot to absorb, in the press conference when I was watching it. Some of them I was like, oh yeah, I understand that, and some of them I was just like, don't have a clue what you're on about, mate. Really don't. Like, there's other things as well, like tyre blankets and stuff like that. Tyre blankets that are like set to stay and all that as well. Of course, 18-inch rims and stuff. Thinner front wings and stuff to try and make the cars better as well. Longer diffusers and stuff like that. So, and all that technical side of stuff. So you probably understand about that more than what we do. We're just kind of giving our opinions on what we think of the new rules and stuff. But so, Lyle, do you think these rules and stuff? Do you think that it will solve? So do you think that we'll be coming into 2021 with a better chance of seeing some great racing? Do you think that it will solve the problems that we have today in Formula 1?
I'd like to think so. As I just said there, at the start, a lot of times when the regulations have changed, one team in particular has managed to, change it for the better. Like Mercedes, for example, when the V6s came in, we don't really know why they just managed to, capitalise on the changes. But there's no engine changes this time. There's nothing has changed, so we're still going to have the 1.6 litre V6 turbos with all the MGUK, MGUH. Everything is staying the same. The only thing is changing is the aerodynamics and the outside look of the car. So that could be a positive, because nobody. I mean, of course, yes, like we've just said many times. Of course, there is a whole side of Formula 1 that we know really very little about, the aerodynamic side, and wind tunnels and all this whatever will make a difference. So yes, some teams could get a marginal gain off something. For example, Ross Brawn, I've just been talking about with with official F1, but when he was a team boss a decade ago with Brawn, he capitalised on the double diffuser. Now again, I don't actually fully still understand what that was, because that's all this legal jargon. in all this, like engineering stuff. But again, it was non-engine specific, and he managed to capitalize on that and create something that, a car. Basically, it was mainly the chassis and the aerodynamics that nobody actually had that could keep up with them. And the Red Bulls and the McLarens and the other teams that were around then, Ferraris, again struggled to catch these two bronze that were running away with it. And of course, they won the championship and the constructors, and then left. So it was very much a blink and you'll miss it moment. So as I've just said there, there's no engine changes, but things like the chassis and the changes to the car might make marginal differences to teams. So again, we might see the very expensive teams like Mercedes, where the cap won't hinder them. For example, like in their wind tunnel tests and things like that, they might be able to get the best out of their components and have an edge on the other teams, the midfield teams. But with the spending cap that we have in, and again the non-engine change I've just said, it should make closer racing. And we've seen, well, actually no, do you know what? I want to use McLaren as an example. Last win for McLaren, Brazil 2012. Sorry to remind you of that, Jordan, but it was all those years ago. That's what, 7 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
No, it's not. What's it? 7 years. Coming up on 7 years. It's absolutely incredible. McLaren has just been, full of dominance since then. Obviously, they're on the rise with Lando and Carlos. This this regulation change, I think, has got the best chance for McLaren to get back to winning ways. A team that is on the rise, a team that is, really pushing forward with their two drivers, who of course are going to be, 2 years older at that point, much wiser and hopefully better, results in next year, and of course the year that in the remainder of this year as well. No engine changes, so of course they will stick with, their car. They're going to Mercedes as well in that year, 2021. And if they can capitalise on the car with, their wind tunnel testings, I think that the team that could come out very strong, obviously of course not winning ways, and unfortunately I don't want to think winning championships at that point, but who knows, is McLaren. But hopefully it does promote better racing. We've seen, it's going to do there'll be more downforce in the car, so obviously faster around corners, but they're already incredibly fast around corners now. Better at following at high speed.
Just what you're saying there as well, about the whole going faster as well. Another thing that was touched on as well, the cars are going to be a lot heavier, which means that one of the journalists asked, I think it was Nicholas, might have been Nicholas or Ross, I can't remember. It was literally those two spoke everything. I think Chase Carey answered one question. I think it was Nicholas that answered it. And the reporter asked, so how slow the car's going to be? And Nicholas replied and said it's going to be 3 to 3.5 seconds slower per lap. These new modern day cars. So do you think that could have an effect? Because we're used to seeing faster cars, or do you think that it's not about the speed? It's all about the overall performances of the cars during the course of a race.
Well, I think when we watch the old V8 cars, they were a lot slower than what they are at the moment. I think now, because we've had the V6 for so long, since 2014. When you watch old comparisons and even little things like driving the video games, you realise the difference in speed. I actually haven't watched the press comment yesterday, that's for excuses, but the problem with that is Formula 1 is of course about the pinnacle of speed. I think it's estimated, as Jordan said, I think it's about 900 kilograms, something around that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cars already were, with the 100 kilograms of fuel, were actually quite heavy, but they managed to capitalise that on, obviously, with the fast electronics and things like that.
That is without fuel, the extra weight. That's without fuel.
So I don't know. It might make a little bit of a difference, but I think that Formula 1 fans are just hoping for a bit of a closer knit community. I think that's what they want. But of course, the speed definitely needs to be there. There's two things that Formula 1 is very, to someone from the outside looking in, is very, very, this is about Formula 1. It's the speed and the sound. And the sound has been declining, did decline in 2014, obviously from the V8s. It's not declining. If anything, it's improving because, of course, the teams are always working on making the cars faster. If you remember in 2014, there was work on, I think the Australian Grand Prix was one of the quietest Grand Prix we've ever had on record. I just made that up, but it was a very quiet Grand Prix. And then the next round in Malaysia, they made these, these massive kind of like amplifiers for the exhaust, to make the cars louder. So we lost the sound, but obviously we're all used to the V6 engines now. In the speed, we definitely need that back. The cars have got faster. We absolutely love that. With these cars being slower, might not be great, but again, if that's the case, we'll get used to it. If we can bring in closer knit racing, so we have a Williams fighting against a Mercedes, fighting against a Ferrari, fighting against a Racing Point within a second of each other on any course in the world, then I would I would happily substitute that, the speed for that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it will make a difference. But no, I mean, I think speed is imperative. That's what that's what is Formula One is about. I would like to think that it was closer between the teams, but who knows? I think also the budgeting does definitely help. And again, as fans, we won't see that effect, but we'll hopefully see it in the cars, because obviously Mercedes will have less money. Mercedes, in obviously not really, but it'll feel like Mercedes have less money to spend on the car, and Williams, of course, will have more money. But as I say, it's all hopes at the moment. It's all wishes and dreams, Jordan. And remember, we still have the remainder of this season and next season to enjoy Formula One at the moment.
Yeah.
Before we get on to 2021. So again, going back to you, do you think that this will improve? As I've just said, that Red Bull 2010, Mercedes 2014, it's always one team that run away with it. Do you think that this will happen this time, or do you think that yes, this is probably the best chance Formula One has ever had to really bunch all of the teams together and create what basically we turn the TV on every time we watch, which is midfield battles and people, not just Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel winning all these. Actually, no, take out Sebastian Vettel. Didn't mean Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton and it's mainly Lewis Hamilton at the moment. We wanted to watch people that aren't Lewis Hamilton win these races. So do you think that will promote closer racing in a tighter field, or what do you think about these new regulations?
Like I said before earlier, I'm not going to jump the gun just yet. I'm not going to say like this has salvaged Formula One, this has saved Formula One, because I want to see it in action first. I want to see it in, like I said, it could all break down and just crumble and burn, and then right, we're back to square one. But I think there will be loopholes. There will be teams that will try and bend the regulations and take them to the maximum limit that they possibly can. Because from what they're going through in the press conference, that Liberty Media and the FIA, they've certainly looked at all different aspects of how teams can get around rules, and they've done that, and they've tried to close every single door possible. Try to close it and lock it, throw away the key, and never be seen again. That's what they're trying to do, and they've went into it a lot of detail in. Like, I know one of them is if you spend beyond what you're supposed to in Formula One from 2021, you'll get kicked out of the championship. That's how strict they're going with. That's how. So like, if Mercedes spend 180 million, they're out. Doesn't matter who you are. And imagine that. That's going to be quite major, isn't it? It's going to be like, well, that's all your prize money gone out the window. You spent 180 million on your car, and you're getting bought all, isn't it? Really, or bought ass, if you want to call it that. But like I said before, there will be teams will try and exploit the rules and regulations. There will be moments where a team will have an illegal thing on their car. The punishment will be, I don't know, they won't get kicked out for that, but I think that the rules are going to be stricter, they're going to be harsher, they're going to be a lot tighter to get around, and that's what like the likes of Ross Brawn have done. And that's what I like about having Ross Brawn on board. He was a team principal. He is a race winning, manager and all that. Like, he's won constructors, he's won drivers' championships with the drivers he's worked with. He knows what fans want, and he's one of the most genuine guys in the sport. So for me, he's the perfect guy to be able to do all this, and I fully trust him. I honestly do. But like I said before, we can't just go and expect and think that this is going to be it, because we need to see it in action. And I've said that 3 times now. I need to stop saying it. But we do. But at the same time, but like I said, it will take time. It's not going to be. You might see, I don't know. You might see Red Bull do well, a bit better what they have been doing in 2021. You might see McLaren get a podium or two. You might get the odd brilliant Grand Prix, but it's not going to happen straight away. Like I said, it will take a matter of seasons before everyone's on the same, singing off the same hymn sheet. I am a fan of these rules. I think FIA and Liberty Media, they've done a fantastic job. Full, credit where it's due. 25 races, right? Bit controversial, but nevertheless, that's the rule that's in place. They might go back on that, and also as well that the teams as well, they'll exploit the rules and stuff and make the cars look totally different to what they do now. I think they gave about 3 or 4 different examples in the press conference about different ways teams can go about designing the car aerodynamically, because the concept car that they've announced, that's not every team is going to be like that. They're all going to find different ways and stuff. And maybe, I don't know, maybe McLaren might find the right solution, the right way of going around things, then teams can follow off that. But at the same time, the rules that they've got in place as well, the FIA, that there will be times where they might change it because one rule might work perfectly and the other one might not make any sense. It might confuse a couple of fans, so they might have to change things. So of course rules are going to be changed. Ross Brawn said this isn't the be all and end all. Like we will get things wrong. We are going to get things wrong, but we need to find ways of trying to substitute them. Right? Okay, this rule doesn't work. What can we do? What can we do instead? And that's what I'm liking as well. Instead of just throwing everything at it and hoping that the problem solves for itself, like what we try to do with these modern day cars. Yeah, they look fantastic and they look racy, but you can't race. So what's the point? That's what I'm saying. And people complain about having the cars are ugly. I've seen a few comments. The cars are ugly. Who cares? If it makes good racing, then therefore that's brilliant. I'm sorry, but if you're worried about the cars being ugly, then Formula 1 isn't the sport for you. Get out now while you still can, because what's the point in watching it for fantastic cars and shit racing? So
well, the thing is, Jordan,
that's the end of that. So
well, the thing is, yeah. one of our favourite seasons in Formula 1 2012 had the ugliest cars. They had the step noses, and
exactly.
then they had, McLaren
good
had
point.
this horrible,
then
the McLaren had this horrible dipped wing, and then I think Spain they changed it to this kind of curvy wing. It was all the cars were horrible back then. The Red Bull actually looked quite good, but they were all step noses, they were all horrible and things like that. So yes, as Jordan said, in 2014, it wasn't the most entertaining year. Lewis Hamilton won his second. That was the rise of Mercedes, and obviously the first year of the V6s. And they had again very ugly cars, wasn't it? Something like the Ferrari had the Hoover, then Force India had the Forks.
That was Lotus. Lotus had the Forks.
Lotus had the Forks. You get the idea, but But 2012 though, amazing season. But Jordan. Obviously, yes, the cars. It should do. We're hopeful. Formula 1 has got things wrong before. For example, like the 2016 qualifying, also the reverse grid order as well, which is still being debated, but no one's humming.
No, that wasn't mentioned. Like I don't think that was mentioned in the press conference or anything else. So I think as far as I'm aware, I think the qualifying just stays the way it is as of now.
That's a real shame, because I remember when they mentioned that, and I even made a video a few episodes ago, and I had to do it on my own. I made it, when it was mentioned, it was quite exciting because again, changes to Formula 1. But yeah, if it's going to go about, then it's not. But I would rather Formula 1 be, exciting and try different things rather than just stay the way that it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I absolutely love this. It's not a venture, they're just changing the looks of the cars, which obviously they have done for a very long time. Because if they hadn't done, we'd still be racing these ones with the massive exhaust sticking out, no covers on the side, massive V12 engines with the wheels that were almost a millimetre away from the driver's hands, with big bus driver steering wheels. So things have to move forward, things have to change. I said to Jordan a few weeks ago about the changes to the steering wheel and everything about Formula 1 just changed almost overnight in 2014. I don't just mean the cars, everything. The cameras, the TV got better. I think it was the main thing for me was the the onboard opportunities. You had better onboard cameras, you had better onboard telemetry, so you could ride on board with multiple drivers. Formula 1 brought in basically Formula 1 TV, and obviously you've been revamping it through the years, and obviously now they've brought it in as a kind of an internet YouTube subscription thing. Yeah. Also the steering wheels, back in 2013 and that, it was just a bland steering wheel with all these buttons. In 2014 and to present day, they're now computer screens, and Formula, everything's changing, everything's evolving, and I like for Formula 1 just to change with the times, because the cars do look futuristic and they do look like they are moving in the right direction. So I love that, and I'm really excited to see what can come. So just quickly, Jordan, just before we end the episode, that number
3
of things that you would like to see. If you could write the 2021 rules, what would you bring in?
Ooh.
And if it's not too technical, how would you do it?
Ooh, good one. I would bring in. Ooh, let's think. Oh, you've got us probably thinking there. 3 things I would bring in. I would certainly bring in. I would bring in refueling again. I know it is expensive, and I know that it can be a bit but that it does mix up the strategy in a way. And I think refuel. It's not the most popular of ideas, but see, I never lived through the era of of refueling. So, well, what a little bit of it, but I would like to see, I would like to see it come back just for a bit of a trial to see, if it can be implemented in modern day Formula One. I know that won't be a popular choice, but I think refueling would be one of them. And I don't know about the other two. You've certainly caught me off guard with this one. I don't know. I really don't know about the other two. Well, I'll pass over to you, and I might think of one. If I think of one, I'll mention it. But what would yours be, Lyle?
Well, again, I mean, I like the idea of the reverse grid, the qualifying. So I would like to implement that, and I would like to have that a go. The original rules were the 3 races of 2020, and let's have a go for 2021. So reverse grid order for me, definitely. One thing, and again, this is very similar to the reverse grid, but I think it was 2016 with. Formula 1 did a comparison with Formula 2 about the 2 races, the sprint race and the feature race, and would it tie into Formula 1 weekends? Again, I'd like to try that. Not every weekend, but let's have them, one every 5 weekends. Also as well, Jordan, I'm just going to say quickly, I actually agree with you about the continent. I'm going to say that, so I'm going to say that we can let's have 25 races. But let's make them in one continent each. So we do all the Americas in one go. Then we do all of Europe in one go, which to be honest we do at the moment, bar Canada. I think it's Spain to Monza. As I said, take out Canada, and we are in Europe. Then we do all the races in Asia, and then all the races, one race in Australia. So we do all that at the same time. If not that one, because that one's a bit, kind of topsy-turvy, I'm going to say kind of subbing in and out of tracks. A bit like what we did with the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. We swapped out for the Nürburgring. There's probably other tracks that have done that. Obviously, I think Britain has done that with like Donington Park and Brands Hatch and things like that. So I'm going to say that. So, for example, let's say that Sochi. Sochi will be on the calendar for 2021, then 2023, then 2025. But then in the spaces, it'll be the Indian Grand Prix. Or, you know what I mean? Like the subbing in and out of tracks. Because as I've just said there, 25 might be a bit too much. Mm-hmm. But, we definitely need to go back to these tracks like India and Istanbul and, other tracks that even things like the Indianapolis Grand Prix, obviously the changed of the, using it around the NASCAR track, the Speedway, even things like that I would like to revisit. So alternating tracks, definitely, that's my third one.
I've got two.
Yeah,
I've got two. So one of them would be refueling, but maybe not. Other one, I would scrap practice sessions, definitely, because that will make weekends more unpredictable because teams are coming in with no data at all from a circuit, just jump straight into qualifying, bang, there we go. And the other one would be either V8 or V10s back. That would be cool. Definitely bring back some more engines. Now, don't get me wrong, I am used to the V6. In fact, no wait, get rid of that bloody halo. No, actually, no. It is safe. It is safe. I'm only kidding. Yeah. I know it's ugly. I know it's annoying, but it does do its job. I will admit. It's actually no. I'm only kidding. Keep the halo. But no, I think V6s. I'm used to them. But let's bring back V8s. Let's bring back V10s. Let's get the noise back in. Modern day cars with the noises. That's what racing is. These V6s, nah. Let's get the V8s and V10s back. That's what I would do.
Yeah. So going off Sebastian Vettel, what he said in Russia. Maybe not V12s, but yes, V10s.
No, don't bring back the V12s because they're quite unreliable. Which is a big mistake. So maybe,
and also as well,
of course, I know he wasn't being serious, but yeah.
No. Well, so the thing is, Sebastian Vettel bring back the V12s, Jordan. He didn't even race in the V12 era, I don't believe.
He didn't race in the V10s either.
So I don't know why he wanted V12s, but I agree with you, V8 will be great, and the noise. And as I've just said there, in the episode, it's two things, it's noise and speed. That's what Formula 1 is. The only thing about that, though, is, two things. One, obviously, Formula 1 is becoming greener, and two, the V6s are faster.
Yeah.
And obviously they've got a lot more electrical power. So maybe there's a way of getting the V8s in
loud. A V8 hybrid.
But then, yes, V8 hybrid, exactly. And I think V8 hybrid is the best way to end this episode.
Yes.
Obviously, it's been very technical. We don't know everything, so please leave anything that we've misspoke about in the comment section below. Give us your opinions and also your three changes to the 2021 rules and regulations. The best ones will get read out in next week's F1 debate show, so please stay tuned for that. Obviously, thank you very much for watching this episode. This is the US Grand Prix this weekend, so obviously we've had the preview that came out yesterday. We have the review, which obviously is done by Jordan on the other side,
Yep.
which will be done tomorrow. Also, go and check out our other videos. We have an interview with Aldas from on YouTube, which came out a few days ago. Please go and check that out if you haven't already. Amazing guy. We met him at Silverstone.
Yep.
We've also got a special episode coming out next week. Again, interviewing another YouTuber. This one, not as famous as Aldas, but very, very aspiring. And obviously, hopefully, we'll get to that level one day.
Yep.
Stay tuned with us throughout 2019, obviously onwards, including 2021, to see what we do we have to eat our words about what we said about the regulations. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like this episode, leave us a comment and subscribe. And until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.